Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another Propagandacast with me, your host, Imperial Dane. And today we have for you a 1 versus 1 on Sturzdorf. Yes, indeed, it is that strange little industrial area, mostly for construction materials, it seems. And we will be, of course, having a 1 versus 1. There's no 2 versus 2s on this map. So, let's go have a look-see at our opponents. In the northern half, we do have Marius20 of the 281st Grenadier Division, ready to hold this area in Holland for the fatherland. And who shall be facing him? It shall be McNap of the 11th Armoured Division, making his way for King George and the Union Jack. But let's of course have a quick look at the map. The map of course being rather dense in terrain, having some rather nice blocking features. For example, this huge pile of wooden waste, and of course numerous large structures, all of these blocking line of sight and line of fire. Of course there are plenty of buildings, and of course resources are a bit spread out, with some high yield ones right over here, separate from all places, and of course protected by strategic points. Nonetheless, let us get on with this. Let us not tarry, but get on to the action. A hello mate from McNap. And we are seeing a lot of pioneers coming out of the Reich headquarters, apparently rather relying heavily on the pioneer battalion. Shall be interesting to see where this goes. Of course, pioneer spam has been rather put a stop to after the Kampfkraft Center required that you have a Wehrmacht quarters up. So of course this might mean, of course, we are seeing a rather different strategy, one which has been recently appearing after the latest game replays tournament, which rather involved getting out a lot of pioneers and then going for something else. Of course I shan't spoil the surprise, although I'm sure some of you will already be aware where this might end up going. And we are seeing a lieutenant up and a reconnaissance section going straight for this high yield munitions point. Looks like the British field headquarters command truck shall be heading there on a nice little drive. Pioneers of course rushing out, seizing as much territory as possible. Nothing unusual with that. Of course pioneers having a lot of them of course gives you a lot of that, and of course they are cheap, so you can get, for example, what in this case amounts to 6 pioneer teams, of course getting a lot of territory, going straight for all the important ones, making it of course harder for the British to secure any of those territories, and of course also being able to harass rather severely. Of course the question is how the British player will react once he sees this. How shall McNap handle this? Will he survive in the face of the 381st Grenadier Division? Nothing else though from the Reich headquarters, just securing up a lot of points, munitions, and of course this fuel point of the high yield, ensuring that even if he can't connect it, it still won't happen up in the hands of the British very swiftly. The British on the other hand are securing a lot of munitions, which will probably be to their advantage. Pioneers coming under fire. Shall not be a good exchange for them, I wager. Pioneers in fact standing out in the open. One chap off the reconnaissance section seemingly forced away by the pioneers. Apparently he has forgotten the pioneers, because he's seemingly just moving them away without actually retreating them, and I doubt they will last much longer. Second infantry section out, and oh dear, the pioneers are running straight into them. Looks like these pioneers will be going down. There we go. Down to 5 pioneer teams, and we are seeing a straight upgrade for the skirmish phase. Pioneer team number 2 though getting out. Lieutenant seizing this point though, ensuring that the fuel point won't fall into the hands of the German. And pioneers taking on the lieutenant. The lieutenant unable to fire back since he's taking a point. There we go, getting away. Infantry section opening up in support of the lieutenant. There we go, pioneers not looking too happy now. Reconnaissance section marching about in the center, not entirely sure why though. Pioneers forced back, and a bit of cat and mouse here, except the cat is heavily equipped with a marksman rifle and of course has a posse of other cats. Quite the analogy. And pioneers continuing about here, going for the fuel point of course. I'm pretty sure by now McNap will be having the idea what's going on there. Most likely, of course, And of course we are seeing the Krieg barracks going up. Of course, what might be coming out of this, I will spoil the surprise. We probably will be seeing a half-track from this. Of course, British infantry not being that able to dealing with half-tracks for some reason, despite riflemen having no problems whatsoever. And of course, some adept Wehrmacht commander was quick to discover this. And of course, this means rushing for the half-track. And then getting some Grenadiers out afterwards. There we go, Sonderkraftfahrzeug 295, 51, was it 52? Oh, I can't remember, but nonetheless, half-track on the way from Hauptmann Marius. Infantry section moving about, another infantry section out, albeit I wager he probably will be needing to get some sort of field support truck and get the steward or perhaps some sappers with Piats out would help. Not many pioneers though, having suffered 2 teams lost, but the half-track is now out, and we are seeing a Kampfkraft center going up as well. Pioneers getting into the half-track, of course. One to man their gun, and of course another to jump out with a flamethrower and just scorch everything nearby. And Pioneer team coming under fire. No, it means he probably didn't lose one. Of course, both are in there, are they? No, he did lose another one. But Kampfkraft sent out, and we are of course seeing now Grenadiers being sent in to just rush in. The Grenadier section not opting for the replacement infantry in terms of Volksgrenadiers, but just going straight for the goodies, straight for the Grenadiers. And infantry veterancy as well, of course. Bren gunners coming under fire, and now the Pioneers are getting out, scorching the Bren gunners. Although they are taking quite a bit of fire, Bren gunners trying to button up the half-track, but it does not save them much, as of course those Pioneers will just scorch them while the half-track pins the infantry section. Not good, not good. British though having a bit of luck, seizing up the victory points and trying to take any fuel points. Grenadiers marching in. Veterancy 1 up, meaning for slight healing. Riflemen here might want, infantry section might want to take up cover behind all of these stacks of bricks. Although Grenadiers are taking quite a bit of fire though. Half-track moving in, Pioneers in support. Infantry section will probably have to retreat, and there we go, field support truck. Praise King George. And infantry section getting out there, not wanting to dance with the half-track, and of course the Pioneers inside, in particular those with the flamethrowers, as they do make terrible dancing partners. Infantry sections reinforcing. We are seeing the third one moving about here, while the others are preparing probably for the inevitable attack. Field support truck on standby. I'm seeing the green light flashing. We'll probably be seeing either some sappers with Piats, or we will be seeing a captain, and then most swiftly after the Stuart light tank. Further Grenadiers hitting the field. 2 Grenadier teams in fact, and veterancy 2 as well. And the con section coming under fire, but they have taken back the point for England. And there we go, flamethrowers still marching in once more. And British counter-attack, another recon section out, Bren guns opening up. Might get the drop on the half-track. And the Bren guns do manage to damage it. Machine gun opening up. Not the best spot though to be when machine guns are opening up on you out in the open, as you do not take any less than suppression. In fact, cover can always help against suppression, so being even in the lightest can help. German troops marching towards the east, Grenadiers supported by Pioneers. Grenadier team number 2, not entirely sure what's going on there. No doctrine either, and apparently no panchers either. Bit curious though, as you should sort of be expecting armor when you're dealing with the British, in particular when you're going with this sort of strategy, as you of course are going to be seeing some sort of armor being thrust against you to sort of deal with these Grenadiers, and then having some panchers faster out would of course be of help. But apparently Marius is unaware of this, or he's feeling that he has the upper hand. And there we go, sappers with Piats. The sort of British bazooka, except it doesn't really use any rockets. It's sort of a spring-loaded thing, and of course it was actually a pain in the arse to use, and a pain in the arm, since it actually bruised the shoulder pretty badly, I believe. And there we go, flamethrower assault on the headquarters command truck. McNap not reacting though. Not reacting at all, just seizing territory instead. Grenadiers moving in for a counter-attack, and Panzerschrecks up as well. 1 Panzerschreck, and Piat rockets just flying. Grenades being dropped at the infantry section, killing 2. Oh goodness gracious, heavy losses already, and the 3 are not looking good. They will have to retreat. Piat rocket knocks out a Grenadier. And there we go. Stuart light tank out for the Commonwealth. The 11th Armoured Division getting a bit of light armor. And this half-track will not be able to survive much longer against the 37mm gun. Grenadiers nearby and now getting plenty of panzerflex, of course realizing now that he needs it. Grenadier team up here taking heavy losses down to 2 men. And we are already seeing 4 Grenadier teams, 4 Pioneer teams, and oh, there we go, half-track out. Not entirely sure why these Grenadiers are not getting out there, or why these reconnaissance troops did not hang about, perhaps sniped one of those Grenadiers. Could certainly have cleared out one team. But Stuart on the prowl, taking on these Grenadiers with the panzerfleck. Of course, Stuarts do take less damage from the panzerfleck now, so of course a bit of a safer bet. Grenadiers getting out of there. These chaps are without a panzerfleck, and now in the face of the Stuart. Oh dear. But the Stuart misses. Grenadiers, on the other hand, kept up the chase, and there we go. Canister shot knocking out most of the Grenadiers. And the last one does manage to get out of there. Reconnaissance section doing a bit of harassment, taking this strategic point. British, and there we go, Captain seizing other points, while this fuel point has also been seized by reconnaissance section. Good use of reconnaissance section, of course, getting the most mobility out of things, which can be rather vital against all of these Pioneers. So good move by McNap. In fact, let's go have a look at our British comrade. They are Britisher. 1 man from this reconnaissance section already down, and 1 is killed by a rifle shot and another by a Panzer Shrek. Now the Stuart though moves in. Reconnaissance section getting out of there. Plenty of munitions for another canister shot, but perhaps not the best time to use it. Grenadiers taking fire, and a large force moving out here. Plenty of Pioneers and veterancy free up for the Grenadiers. Lots of veterancy, getting the toughest of the tough Grenadiers. Elite armor and extra health. Good choice, but at the same time, with more light armor hitting the field, he might be encountering some problems. Then again, he might not. Reconnaissance section taking quite a bit of fire, and actual fire. Pioneer team might be lost though. Will he focus it down? Looks like it. There we go. Reconnaissance section down 3 men, but a Pioneer team is down and out the drain. Oh dear, these Pioneers are very low on health. Could easily end up killed very swiftly. Another sapper team, and we are seeing the expert repairs upgrade. Not a bad move. Can mean he can over repair those Stuarts, and of course against panzerflex, an over repaired Stuart is always a good thing. Means he can take more damage. So not a bad move at all, getting the most out of his armor. Good show, McNap. Time to show those Huns what it is all about. And another lone Pioneer now facing sappers. My goodness, he's just throwing out those Pioneers without any support. More Grenadiers hitting the field, not getting any packs or any sort of armors apart. Not trying to sort of broaden his advantage with all of these Grenadiers and half-tracking, perhaps get some armor. Instead, no, he's relying fully on veterancy 3 Grenadiers. And I do seem to have a bit of a cold. I do apologize. And yes, these sappers do seem to have a bit of an issue sticking on to repairing at times. Not entirely sure why, but they have stopped there. Of course, they can over-repair if ordered to do so. Grenadiers coming under fire, and there we go, over-repairing the Stuart tank, meaning it in fact will have more health than a Stuart right out from the field support command. Field support truck. There we go, Stuart moving in, getting in the rock with these Grenadiers. Missing though. Sapper staying nearby. Other Grenadier team under fire from the reconnaissance section. And a Grenadier being hit, but due to all that extra health, they are of course tougher. And a large Grenadier falls right into the line of fire, and there we go. Excellently used canister shot. Almost wiping out an entire Grenadier team, and the others are also heavily wounded. And all those panzerflex, of course, due to the over repair, don't really do much damage in the end. And of course the Stuart line tank is still in pretty good condition. So of course, expert repairs, an excellent upgrade, an expert upgrade in fact. And the British are holding up heavily in the east as well. Reconnaissance section there, recovering, reinforcing, or apparently not quite. armor command on the way. Stuart here, though, not doing anything, and we are seeing a casualty clearing station. Might we be seeing some medics picking up any wounded? I can't say, I cannot see. Although it looks like, yes, there we go. Looks like a few sappers. And a bit of fighting here against Grenadiers. Pioneer team might be cut down by this intrepid reconnaissance team, and there we go. Leaving behind only the 3 Grenadiers, although they won't have any trouble dealing with this reconnaissance team. But at the same time, that is a bit of a loss. So of course that means no troops are actually constructing mines or anything. And I'm of course a bit curious, we haven't seen a single mine from the Wehrmacht either. And certainly seems like his sort of strategy of blobbing up heavily on Grenadiers might in fact bite him as the ass due to these over-repaired Stuart light tanks with canister shots, and of course due to all the munitions he can of course get off plenty of them. And Grenadiers charging into this Bren gun section, taking quite a bit of fire. Stuart might have a nice spot here to fire off a canister shot, and will we see it happen? Will we see it happen? No, yes, there we go, perhaps. Oh dear, that wasn't the best one, and Stuart might be lost. Main gun destroyed. Will it get out of there? Sappers providing covering fire with the Piats and the Lee Enfield. Another sapper and another. Oh dear, Stuart is also lost. Sappers will have to get out of there in a swift maneuver. Second Stuart, though I'm not entirely sure why he didn't move in that to support. That could really have perhaps done the thing. And enemies are moving on the central victory point. The Huns are on the move with the veteran Grenadiers. The 281st are not to be stopped. They have strict orders from high command not to give up. And commandos are joining McNap's 11th Armoured. So jolly good there. Quite devastating troops. Silenced den guns. Powerful submachine guns, and of course grenades, and a sapper being pulled out of there by a courageous British medic. And now they are getting close. Commandos cutting down one Grenadier. Second Grenadier team left behind to face the Commandos. Not looking good, not looking good. Commandos though not stopping up. One should of course note that they are less accurate on the move. There we go. Grenadiers getting torn apart. Might they be lost? Stuart moving in as well. Good canister shot, tearing apart numerous Grenadiers. Leaving behind very few. Commandos just continuing to tear the way through them. In fact, looks like a Grenadier team might be lost, perhaps even 2. Or not. There we go. In fact, 2 Grenadier teams are lost. That's a 600 manpower. That's quite heavy. And now the British infantry are charging in. And no pantry checks for these Grenadiers. And another Grenadier is lost. Of course, this is the sort of danger, but just relying on one type of infantry, just spamming them. Canister shots when it's sort of huge anti-blob mechanisms can do quite a bit of damage, and of course commandos do that as well. Grenadiers coming under fire, recon section marching in. And one is sniped there. Jolly good show, Mr. Marksman. In fact, we are halfway through, so let's go have a look at the mapsy, shall we? Already we have seen the British have successfully counterattacked right here in the center, doing quite a bit of damage to the German forces, annihilating 2 Grenadier teams, leaving behind only 4. Of course, that is still 600 manpower out the window. Not a lot of pioneers, in fact, only 1 out of, again, 6 pioneer teams. High casualties on all lengths, while the British, on the other hand, have been much better at minimizing casualties. In fact, only a Stuart light tank has been lost, and considering the manpower losses on the Grenadiers, that is actually quite nice. And of course Grenadiers are also expensive to reinforce. And sadly Marius did not use his sort of advantage he had there with the Grenadiers and use them to hold the line while he got some armor himself. No, instead he's just throwing out Grenadiers, and this is sort of the one shot strategy. Of course it works very well if you can catch your opponent off guard, or just with its own sort of imbalanced strategy, not in terms of overpower, but in terms of what he can actually deal with. And of course this force is, well, in one sense supposedly could deal with armor. At the same time we are seeing these Stuart light tanks are doing quite a bit of damage, and of course Grenadiers are infantry is also causing them a bit of trouble. So how this will turn out I cannot say, but I do believe the British might win this if they of course can keep those blobs at bay, cause them to constantly run back and forth. And for the Wehrmacht commander Marius, for him to win, he actually needs to get something else than just veterans, the 3 Grenadiers. He needs to get some sort of armor. He needs to get the drop on the British again. Otherwise, he's just going to be running back and forth, suffering heavy losses. And Grenadiers getting a pantry trick here as well. Not looking too good though. British digging in here, taking points. And raising the Union Jack wherever they can, getting all misty-eyed while doing so. Commandos getting ready, reinforced, and almost looks like this casualty clearing station is ready. Recon section holding up against these Grenadiers who might clear up this glider. Grenadiers charging in. Not fully reinforced though. And another Pioneer might be lost. Yes, there we go. Again, not looking good at all. And he's just throwing more Grenadiers into the meat grinder. My goodness. And we are seeing a bit of Grenadiers moving about here, all on their own. And of course the British are moving in to clear those chaps out, while leaving the other ones to blob around. Of course limiting their overall effectiveness. Of course where they can strike they can do good. But of course if the British army is everywhere else they can't do much. And Grenadiers getting torn about by the Commandos. Commandos doing nicely as always. 8 kills so far. 8 lethal kills. And there we go, another Grenadier team. We're up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Grenadier teams. Of course with 2 lost, that's probably around 9 Grenadier teams so far. A lot of manpower and of course a lot of good elite crack Grenadiers who have suffered heavy losses. And I suppose we are looking at about a 40 to 50 Grenadiers so far, half a company already, and of course those have already suffered heavy losses. So those might actually been lost. And my goodness, this is a demolition charge and those Grenadiers blob right into it. Of course demolition charges against blobs are brilliant, and if those Grenadiers are caught in it, he's going to regret it most dearly and most tragically. And Grenadiers continuing down though, avoiding the demolition charge just barely. Going straight for the headquarters command track. And another commando team drops in, ready to support. Recon section holding up, but on the wrong side of the half track. Oh dear, McNap, get on the right side. That can actually help. Commandos moving in, charging in. Doing what they've learned with their Sten guns, tearing apart those Grenadiers. Might even drop a grenade, but no, the Grenadiers drop grenades at them. All miss. Gesundheit. My apologies. And a grenade being dropped on the Grenadiers, almost taking them down to half health. Commandos continuing the drop. Recon section as well. Headquarters command truck cleared out, forcing the Grenadiers out. My goodness, I think a Grenadier team in fact might have been lost. And looks like our infantry team might be recuperated. Which of course means there will be some fresh infantry. And of course that headquarters command truck will be swiftly out on the field. Commandos being picked up. Of course, it can't apparently get any troops out until the headquarters is up again, so that's certainly something to keep in mind. Stuart advancing slowly, ever steadily. Commandos in support. Rather large force of commandos, in fact. Lots of sappers as well, some with Piat, some with repair equipment. And Grenadiers going out again. And the Stuart is nearby, taking out one Grenadier. Not looking too heavily for the Grenadiers though. Commandos getting close, and another shot from the Stuart, not doing anything again though. And a grenade right amongst the Grenadiers. Not doing anything though. Another hit from the Stuart. 8 kills so far, and the Commandos just charge in, getting the best out of their Sten guns, tearing apart everything and everyone. Hooray. And Grenadiers marching out again, just relying solely on Grenadiers again. This is not a good sort of strategy when it's so being easily countered, as he might have been noticing by now, or at least hopefully he should have noticed. This is just throwing away good German soldiers and not tactics or strategy. Apparently it could of course be a sign of desperation that of course he's perhaps not the strongest commander. He's of course relied to sort of these sort of strategies, if you will call them, and of course then as soon as he's caught beyond them, he can't actually adapt. And of course if you can't adapt, then you're not going to do very well in the long run. And now these Grenadiers are just forced retreat, and a good use of decoy smoke, just forcing all of these Grenadiers back at absolutely no cost. Absolutely brilliant, McNap. You do the Union Jack proud, and the King of course. There we go, fresh infantry section. And might we be seeing something out of this armor command track? Apparently not. Still the Stuart over repaired. Commandos in dire need of some healing though. And Grenadiers marching in once more, while another large Grenadier force is marching in from the north. One with the LMG-42. I doubt that she'll do anything. In fact, I'm pretty convinced it will do nothing else. Plus, it actually has to stand still, of course, so he can't actually march them in. Instead, he actually does. I mean, one thing is using the LMG-42, one is actually then proceeding to use it in the absolute wrong way. Looks like a saboteur was lost. Or something else, I can't say. Perhaps an officer. No, the commandos were torn apart by these Grenadiers. Finally getting a bit of an outlet for their frustration with these damn British, yeah? The con section suffering losses and forced back. Again, not entirely sure why he's not using this LMG-42 even the slightest when he then proceeded to actually get it in again. I doubt it's going to do much for him. Of course, we'll try to follow and of course keep an eye on this. But again, I'm pretty sure it won't do anything. And British troops getting up ready, and of course using the casualty for a bit of munitions to heal all of them. Very good move there. And Cromwell cruiser tank is ready to unleash some high explosive shells on Jerry, and we are seeing some decryption there. Storm Armory finally up, getting something else than Grenadiers. My goodness, that took him quite a bit of time and quite some extreme losses. And the demo charge went off right there, getting a few Grenadiers, I wager. Shall be interesting to see what he gets out of the Sturm Armory. If he gets a Puma though, I'm pretty sure there's a trench with his name on it on the Eastern Front. Because right now a Puma is not what he needs. He needs something to deal with his armor more steadily. So if he gets a Puma, my goodness. Grenadiers coming under a bit of fire. One Grenadier team has lost. Commanders moving in to clear out the second one, forcing them to retreat. My goodness. And by Joe, he went for the Puma, the Sonderkraftfahrzeug. That was the last thing he needed. He needs something to deal with this British armor, and Pumas don't really deal with that. British standing out in the open, pursued the Grenadiers. Cromwell opening up. My goodness, these Grenadiers are just standing out. Grenade. No, he's having actual rifle grenades. My goodness, that's actually a pretty interesting move. We'll be able to do quite a bit of damage to these Grenadiers. Grenadiers suffering heavy losses. Grenade being dropped. Grenadiers taking quite a bit of fire, but it looks like these infantry section troops are taking even more. One is in fact suppressed. And Grenadiers, no, not standing still and opening up with the MG-42. And heavy fire from the Panzerfax hitting the Cromwell. Cromwell getting out of there. And another decoy being sent in. Once more falling for it. And Puma damaged engine. My goodness. Another shot and there we go. Gone. Enemy armor down as the Cromwell commander so gleefully reports. Stuart just hanging about. And another Puma. My goodness. Cromwell getting repaired by the expert sappers. Will probably also over-repaired, making it even tougher. These chaps are not moving about, but there we go, actually getting about on the move as I mentioned it. Commanders coming under fire from the Puma with autocannon and machine gun. Pioneers and Grenadiers joining in the wake. 5 Grenadier teams. That's quite heavy losses, of course, and some of them aren't even fully reinforced. And there we go, another decoy forcing him slightly back, not into a full retreat this time, but still good move. Cutting loss from his fuel while the British are moving in here in full force. Cromwell over repaired now, quite sturdy, and we are seeing a King Tiger, Königstiger, sent in to salvage the German effort. Marius has pulled every string he has, every favor, calling in the King Tiger to sort of rectify his mistakes, his sins in the name of the fatherland. Might even be him standing right there on top. Either going to succeed or die. Of course, might not be him. And Puma getting upgraded with the 50mm gun. Stuart getting the knowledge that there's a King Tiger, and of course doing the wise thing, getting the hell out of there. As a King Tiger is not something you want to be facing if you're in a light tank. And not even the Cromwell is going to want to face that easily. Every piece of anti-armor shall have to be mobilized, including possibly some Fireflies, Piats, and everything else. And Cromwell taking quite a bit of fire. King Tiger opening up with its high velocity 88mm gun right on the sear. My goodness. Side, I mean. Cromwell will have to get out of there despite Grenadier losses. And my goodness, a Panzerschreck is dropped. If the British pick that one up, it's not going to be a happy day for the Germans. King Tiger opening up. Heavy damage to the Cromwell. Get out of there, Cromwell. Get out of there. No. King Tiger slays it. German piece of engineering triumphs British. And the sappers are forced to retreat. Large British force nearby. Will they be able to do anything? Sappers being equipped with Piats in large numbers. And the King Tiger just marches in. Albeit it might be walking straight into a hornet's nest. Might in fact get buttoned up. Piats hitting. Will the Bren gunner button it up? Please do. It would be the thing to rather get things done. And another decoy forcing the King Tiger forwards. Bit of an interesting move, of course. And there we go, buttoned up. And now probably going to get pelted with Piat shots. No, it managed to get out of there. Stuart moving in from the side. And there we go, actual artillery. Of course, all the decoy smoke has rendered the German commander careless. And now taking fire. Grenadiers taking heavy losses, my goodness. Another MG42, not doing much though. And the King Tiger just getting absolutely pelted with munitions. Grenadiers not doing too well either. In fact, down to one man with an MG42 against Stuart light tank. That's not going to do him much good. Although the, oh my goodness, Panzerschreck left behind. And the British are opening up against the King Tiger. Frontal armor still holding tight though. The King Tiger is still mostly operational. Thickest armor in the war. Oh my goodness, that was an absolutely terrific shot. Clearing out 5 to 6 British troops in one shot, and then clearing up the rest with machine gun grenades being dropped. My goodness, this frontal assault in on the King Tiger is an absolutely horrific move by McNap. My goodness, what is he doing? Who on earth told him that charging heavy armor from the front was a good idea? I have no idea. Oh goodness gracious, that might just have bought Marius the time he needs to turn the tide around, despite the fact, no, he doesn't have a lot of victory points left. But still, it might be enough, or perhaps not. These Grenadiers are getting torn apart by commanders. In fact, he barely has any infantry left. King Tiger, though, moving in once more. Decoy smoke being thrown once more. Dragged as a decoy. Stuart in dire need of repairs. Command tank on the way, perhaps opting for some sort of repair. And the King Tiger exposes its rear armor, taking even further heavy damage. British charging in, heedless of the danger posed by the King Tiger's gun. And it's already secured 21 kills in the short time it has been on the battlefield. British troops taking even heavier losses. Germans not digging in again, continuing to just move out that LMG-42 as if it was nothing. King Tiger, open up, please do. No, continuing to expose its rear armor and just get out of there. He needs to actually use it in defense, otherwise things shall not last long. And British slowly advancing, plenty of anti-tank assets now, Panzerschrecks and Piats. Grenadiers getting torn apart by Stuart and commandos. Germans seizing this central point, in fact gaining all 3 victory points. I hope he's not going to pull that King Tiger away completely. No, going to lay it down here in a defensive position to watch over this point. Shall it succeed? Shall it fail? I cannot say. Looks like the British are lining up. Another Panzerschreck left behind. Could pick it up and use it against their former owners. And Grenadiers moving in, only 2, but they do look sturdy and taking quite a bit of fire. Take up a position right there. Go Grenadiers, please. Yes, no. Continuing to move about. And British can just continuing to fire away, my goodness. King Tiger standing ready, getting repaired swiftly by all the pioneers that could have been mustered. Apparently not many are left in this pioneer battalion in the 281st. Certainly not been there. Map fight. McNap having expertly turned things around in the face of the German strategy, which was, in one hand, rather heavy-handed, of course, rather devastating, but of course, if countered properly, quite useless. As you might have noticed here, having suffered extreme Grenadier losses, down to in fact 3 Grenadier teams. Although fresh ones are getting sent out. No, 4, 5 now, alright. Still heavy Grenadier losses. You might be in fact looking at an entire company's worth of Grenadiers lost in this fight, which is absolutely horrific. In fact, criminal. King Tiger slowly advancing, getting ready to be on the offensive. And Firefly joining in, Sharon with a 17-pounder gun. Certainly going to show that King Tiger, whose spots, if used properly, that is, if he's trying to slug it out with the King Tiger, of course he's going to lose it in seconds. Oh dear. Demolition charge could go off. There we go, 2 Grenadiers down, leaving behind only 1 with an MG42 again, my goodness. And artillery now being dropped down, oh dear. And of course now Marius once more getting... Oh dear, Grenadiers lost. British holding the line here, not pushing towards the center. Of course it is a bit of disadvantage of plopping up your troops. You can't actually hold much of either, and of course if the British push through here, nothing's going to stop him. Pioneers continuing to repair the King Tiger. Firefly ready and fully repaired, in fact over repaired, my goodness. So is the Stuart. One good counter maneuver and that King Tiger might be lost for good. Will it happen? I do believe so. Firefly on the move. 11th Armoured really showing its armor today, despite the loss of a Cromwell.
An ammo storage facility is being opened.
And the Firefly commander just crushing an Opel Blitz truck just because he could. And King Tiger opening up once more, securing another kill. Machine guns roaring as well. Firefly picking off the wrong target, I think. Although managing to kill some Grenadiers apparently still. Stuart under fire and King Tiger, there we go, coming under fire. Panzerschrecks opening up on the side. Firefly damaging the engine. Piats just flying towards it like it was snowballs, except these detonate and really do quite a bit of damage. And German counterattack moving in. Oh dear, this King Tiger is out of control. Decoy being thrown in. Oh dear, looks like Marius is lost. In fact, the German effort is completely lost. Grenadiers now just getting slaughtered. British just moving in, opening up with all they have. Stuart moving in, just opening up on what remains. No Panzerschrecks for the Germans. And a cancer shot just absolutely tearing apart what remains. And GG from McNap.
German target.
And a firestorm? That seems a bit rubbish. And the last Grenadiers trying to hold out near the King Tiger. Although it is not more a monument to Marius' failure than anything. I doubt this shall last much longer. There we go, Marius retreating. Or well, his forces during Marius, of course, lying scorched in the wreckage of the King Tiger. So what can we learn? Well, because we learned how to deal with these sort of strategies, of course. Get quickly some Stuarts to counter those half-track, deal with the Pioneers, that of course was also rather nicely done, and of course get ready to deal with a lot of Grenadiers with Panzerschrecks, of course over-repairing and having lots of munitions. Really good for that, of course. Those cancer shots was absolutely amazing. Commandos, well, good choice there, just charging into those Grenadiers and tearing them apart with grenades and demo charges occasionally as well. Of course, what can we learn from the Germans? Well, of course, don't plop up. Don't just rely on Grenadiers. Actually use that advantage to get some armor. Had he gone for that, he might have stood a chance, but no. He also proceeded to throw in Pumas, which didn't help him much either. King Tiger, alright, but without much support and just thrown in rather rashly in several situations, which cost it dearly. No use of mines from the Germans. In fact, they didn't even try to make it harder for the opponent to get their territories, in which case they lost a lot. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this fight. If you did, why not subscribe or tell your friends. And if you didn't, well, why not send in a replay of your own? This is Imperial Dane saying, don't blow up. Cheers.